Welcome to Across the Ring. My name is William Mayhem Michaels.
And this is the scientist, Carl Schupfer. And today we are here with Bugs Moran. How are you?
Howdy, boys. I'm doing great.
So,
Thanks for having me.
So Bugs, before we get started, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? We know you're a wrestler. Like, where do you wrestle out of and stuff like that?
Anywhere they'll pay me. I mean, I've been got my start out in Florida, and I'm living out in Midwest now. So doing a lot of indie stuff in Chicago, Michigan, Wisconsin, those kind of areas. But I've worked in multiple countries and continents and stuff like that. Hit South America and even got kicked out of Malaysia, so I'm no longer allowed to work there anymore. But that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
That's pretty cool. I can't wait to hear more about some of that stuff. But
Yeah,
before we get too ahead of ourselves, how did you first get introduced to wrestling?
I was when I was a kid, there's this woman that had taken care of me, and then her daughter would watch Raw and SmackDown like back in the 90s. My folks didn't let me watch it at all. So I'd always like beg, Mondays and Thursdays. I was like, oh, I want to go over to Veronica's house and whatnot. And they didn't really know why. And it was mostly just so me and her daughter could sit there and, watch the Raw is War era stuff. And that was kind of how I got caught on to it. Parents tell you no, so you want to do it more. And lo and behold, now I'm doing it professionally. So it kind of backfired on them.
That's pretty funny. I actually had a similar background where my parents didn't want me to watch wrestling either. So I would have to like sneak it at my cousin's house or my grandma's. So yeah, I definitely know the feeling of, you can try to tell me no, but I'm going to find a way to watch it.
It just makes it more enticing. So
right. Like
So
the forbidden fruit.
Exactly.
Right. Mine was a little bit different growing up. My parents were like, they gave me a VHS like recorder because that was before like the camcorders really came out, and we just beat the shit out of each other on that thing.
Hell yeah.
So when you got into wrestling, when you started watching Raw, was there anyone particular that really drew you in that you were like really super fascinated with?
Kane was always my dude. Like I think part of it was, I mean, just that early, that like 98, 99 era, Kane was just like such a monster, such a badass, like total mystique and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it too was like, back when I was playing Super Nintendo, like I'd play 2-player on Super Mario World and kill Mario off just so I could play as Luigi. It's kind of always been this like, I've always loved the kind of like the underdog younger brother like aspect of it. So I was always rooting for Kane. I grew up in Chicago, grew up as a Sox fan, just as a fuck you, because everybody I knew was a Cubs fan. And so like, yeah. And as time went on, I just, loved him more and more, just as a worker, as a character, as, person, everything. And, I don't have the size or intimidation factor to really pull off any of his stuff, but he was definitely one of the guys that I was really drawn to when I was watching.
I think most people don't have his body, right? Like that guy was such an anomaly of a man, and he was just so jacked and big and like and just scary. I think everybody loved Kane. Kane was really freaking cool. So you started off, you were kind of, sneaking around trying to be able to figure out how I can watch wrestling and stuff like that, and kind of built up your fandom that way. What kind of sparked you to decide to, become a wrestler?
Yeah, I had recently been fired from a job, and I just saw like I was just doom scrolling through Facebook, and for no particular reason, there was some ad that came up for this Al Snow seminar that was going on near my house. And I was like, I've spent $20 in worse places. And I just showed up, and he literally showed me the ropes. And, I started going to the school every, 2-3 times a week for about 2 years to get trained up. And yeah, the rest was history. I just kept showing up and seeing where it went.
So what did it take at your point in training where you were like, all right, now I'm ready to start going to shows and start competing myself outside of training?
Uh, it was more of my coach just sort of threw me into the fire, man. Like my very first match, I started training in March, and my first match was a Cinco de Mayo, and I didn't have any gear. I didn't have a character. I didn't have anything going on or anything, and some dude just didn't show up, and my coach is like, hey, Bugs, you got your gear? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, well, find some. And so like I just, the locker room just did like a create a wrestler thing with me, and I had everybody's little like hodgepodge pieces of gear and threw it together. And they put me in with these. It was a tag match. This dude Cha Cha Charlie against these two in Mexico. They're called exoticos, and
Wow.
so like I'm sitting there and they don't speak English. Like my Spanish is okay. Like I can act like conversationally, I can speak Spanish. And so they're like, hablas español. And I was like, sí. And so like they just are like, like I don't know turnbuckle. I don't know reverse, dude. I don't know. And like half the time they're fucking late to begin with. Then they show up and then they spend maybe an hour and a half doing their makeup and hair. And then they start talking about the match, and they
Oh
just
my
keep
God.
switching what they're going to do. And they keep doing this and that. So we go out there and I literally have no idea. I have not a single clue what I am. So I have like two spots in my head that I'm like, okay, I think we were supposed to do this. And they're doing like lucha style tag stuff. So like
Mhm.
he's like, okay, come in. I'm like, all right, you're supposed to tag me. Like, oh, okay, I'm the legal man now. I don't understand what's going on. And so, that just kind of set it off. And so like from there, I was like, I will always know more than when I first started. So like it never can get lower than that. And that really boosted the confidence for sure.
That sounds like, people talk about trial by fire. I think that's about as trial by fire as it gets for a first match.
Oh my God. Yeah, man, for sure.
So, you have this first match and you're training and stuff like that. As you're kind of doing this stuff, like who were some of the people that were like your biggest supporters as you were trying to get into wrestling?
We had a great school back then. I don't know if you guys are familiar with CCW, and my coach was Pablo Marquez, and he was great, great coach. A guy named Jake St. Patrick definitely was a big influence. He was really the like hands-on trainer. He was always the one that was pushing me, getting me to the next level, seeing if I had potential, that he was putting me in you know, tenser situations, and really, really getting me out of my shell. I'd have to say Jake did, more than anybody, really, really helped me out. And he's a fellow Chicago native, so we're going to be booking him next time he comes up here and stuff. So it's really
Yeah.
great to be able to pay it forward.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's super cool. For our audience that doesn't know, let's get into who your character is and what you're portraying when you're wrestling now.
Yeah, man. I mean, Bugs has always been, that came pretty quick. It's just this hippie, homeless, hobo vagabond. I'm just here for a good time, and I can be a dastardly heel, still kind of cheeky. People are always gonna like it. I'm out there. I won't get into the ring until somebody gives me $1. So I walk around. I walk around the whole, and I've literally held up shows for like 10 minutes until I'm like, listen, someone's gonna give me a nickel, a quarter. I'm not getting to that ring. These promoters are cheap. They didn't pay me enough money. I'm not coming out of here. And so train hopping, just dirty, just spitting on people and rifling through trash, and
Just very much like very like crust punk kind of thing, right?
yeah, kind of crust punk meets Charlie Chaplin. It's
Oh yeah. I love Charles Chaplin.
Indeed, man. He's definitely, a personal inspiration of mine. And
Have
I was over the moon. I had some of my matches over at Wrestle League here in Chicago. We have John Bullard is kind of a mainstay promoter around here, and he was doing commentating. He's like a modern Charlie Chaplin. I'm like, yes, dude, this guy just nailed it on the head.
He gets it. He gets it.
He gets it. I've even done a mime character where I'll call myself Bugzo, and I'll do like mime makeup and like throw a lasso on people and like try to pull them in for an Irish whip and stuff. And
so, being a fan of Charles Chaplin, I mean, what it sounds like is you pull some stuff from him. Are you also a fan of like Buster Keaton, since they're both kind of like at that same time? And yeah.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, and especially the physicality of it.
Yeah.
Like you talk about somebody like who knows how to take a bump,
yeah. And I think one of my first videos of watching Buster Keaton was him when he's on the train and he's like falling in front of the train while it's actually going and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they didn't have CGI or nothing back then, so he's like, you get one take, and I think it's really it's kind of galvanized me to be a little bit more, I know how my body works and like in different situations and gravity, and like being able to have that kind of background has really helped me in terms of I've been upping my spots a lot, where maybe in January, December, something like that, we had this like 6-man match. We were like trying to figure out all the stuff we were going to do, and we're in this gymnasium, and there's like this like 2-story kind of overpass where all the seats are. And I was like, yeah, I'll do a moonsault off that. And they're like, dude, that's like 20 feet. I'm like, yeah, it'll catch me, it'll be fine.
That's something that you definitely see amongst the greats, is that like they often are looking to push the limits and figure out, where how far can I go to do the things I want to do. I always think of a story in Milwaukee, actually. So there's Turner Hall out here, which is a balconied venue, and Ring of Honor comes through here quite a bit. Used to do that venue pretty often. And Kevin Owens, he always wanted to do a spot where he jumped off of that balcony into the ring. And very similarly, like, hey man, that's like 20 feet. I don't know if that's the best idea, So, like, to have that same daredevil mindset.
Yeah, and well, I'm a buck nothing too. Like, I'm not worried about people catching me. If I was Kevin Owens,
I'd be real worried.
Yeah, I would be maybe. Yeah, if he was trying to tell me that, I'd be like, well, let's think of something. Think of something else. I love it, but
But yeah. I like where your headspace is at, but we got to go somewhere else with that.
So speaking of though, so you talked about some influences from like film. Are there wrestlers or musicians or other areas that you pull from for your character?
There's definitely a lot in terms of the fighting style, and that I have Y2J RVD. I like a lot of the like 90s light heavyweight Japanese wrestling. I want to do shit that looks like I'm still fighting people. Like, I don't want to do things that I'm like, okay, this guy had to help me up and hold me here, and so that I could do some thing or whatever. Definitely like a lot of fighting styles I emulate styles that look like they're some type of martial art or wrestling or something like that. Musically, it's just a lot of this kind of, think of like CCR, like I don't know if you guys know a guy named Tom Waits. It's just sort of like this like spooky jazz, like 70s Americana type hippie shit.
You talk about, kind of like old films and like music that you like what are some other things, that are a part of your life when you're not doing wrestling things?
Music and film are artistically a big interest of mine. I've done a fair amount of like bullshit shitty little acting stuff. I actually had a scene with The Rock in the Baywatch movie, which was pretty sick.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, dude. And then they fucking cut it. So don't look for me. Like, it was like 2 days of us filming this whole scene for Baywatch. And then I found out like 6 months later, they filmed it entirely over again in a different country. And I was like, what? So yeah, I
Oh
can't even
man.
get the rights to the videos or whatever, but working with Dwayne, it was, it was super cool to just like be right there. And yeah, so acting's been a part of my life, and I actually made a feature length Bugs Moran film. It's something that I had a lot of fun doing. It's sort of this hodgepodge of the first couple years of my career.
Mhm.
So it's like an hour 20, um, and a lot of fun. There's some higher quality, there's lower quality. We did the best we could with what we had, and had a good team working on it. So if you guys ever get a chance, just check it out. I'd love to know what people think. I just threw it up on YouTube for free. There's some copyright issues, so it wasn't like I was sending it anywhere and trying to make any money off of it. But for any wrestling fan out there, that should be, a good hour of entertainment, something different. And I'm always surprised that there's not more of that. I'm trying to like
Mhm.
push the boundaries of, what wrestling can be.
So on top of that movie, like what inspired you to make a movie and to kind of put on YouTube? Like what is the story behind that?
I think it's just that. I think that there is a story behind Bugs. There's a lot of storytelling that goes into wrestling, and sometimes, it's so inundated these days that sometimes we just think it's just the athleticism, and that's a huge part of it, and you should never overlook it. But with me, there's this really like rich character that I'm not always able to convey in just a wrestling match,
Mhm.
even in promos and stuff like that. So I saw that there was an opportunity there, and yeah, just to let the fans get to know me a little bit better, get some more background of like what I'm about, and then it makes more sense when you watch the matches,
The
like
match.
you know
Mhm.
why I do certain things or how I operate and stuff. So and I had all this material that I was just kind of didn't know what to do with, so we kind of threw it together and made a story out of it.
Right. And that's cool because it also creates more content to bring eyes A to wrestling and B to you. That's something that me and Carl are always constantly looking at, like what's something else that we can do? What other type of content can we create? We also started another channel of wrestling carpool karaoke. It's where I get wrestlers in my car and we drive around and do
Oh,
karaoke.
oh my God, I love karaoke.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like,
fuck.
and I recently just started getting with some of the local guys and doing promos and kind of creating more depth to the characters. So my next question for you, I kind of want to get away from that, is I want to know the story about you getting kicked out of Malaysia. Ever since you said it, I've been sitting here thinking about it the whole time. I can't lie.
I was in Asia, and I was just out there traveling just to see the sights and do the thing and whatnot. And then while I was around, I was like, let's check out what wrestling is like in Southeast Asia. And I mean, one story can play into the other, but I found this group in Vietnam, like these kids, they had just started. And so like I'll put a pin in that story because it ends up with like me almost going to jail in Vietnam. But we'll
Oh,
we'll
jeez.
fast forward. So like go through Thailand. I'm in Malaysia. I find this promotion, MYPW, I think. It was the weirdest thing because I had been talking to them for like a month or two, letting them know like what days I'm gonna be there. I'd like to train. If you guys got any shows going on, let me know. Like yada yada yada. And so I'm in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I'm like, okay, this is the date, this is the time. I get on public transit, I get all the way to the other side of the city, and I get to this, I get to the spot, and like there's just nobody there. The lights are off, nothing is going on. And so I'm hitting them up. I'm like, did I get the day wrong? Did I get the time wrong? Like I got there early because like I know like I try to keep utmost respect on stuff. And he's like, oh, sorry, students will be there soon. And then like an hour and a half later, some of the students show up, someone unlocks the door, no trainer, no owner. I don't even know the name of the guy I've been talking to at all. I have no idea who runs this thing. And so all these kids show up. They don't have gear. They're just like wearing khakis and shirts and stuff. And I was like, okay, so like, what's the deal? And they're like, all right, okay, so I'm training. Okay, so I'm training you people. Okay, great. So that's what it turned into, is that I was now just running a training at their school, which was just completely bizarre to me. And I was like, I'm not going to come out of here with absolutely nothing. So we did, you know, some exercises, stretching, we did some drills, we did little mock matches, stuff like that. And then I had everybody shoot promos. And then I shot a promo where basically I'm like, Bugs Moran out here in Malaysia, come out, ran 30,000 kilometers to, I called it MYPW on accident, which is number one insult to them. So like I called them by the wrong name. I go in there, I'm like checking out the students and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, let's see what you guys got. And then I low blow one guy. I was working a heel gimmick, so I was just being an asshole and just like beat the shit out of all their students. And then I was like, well, Bugsy better go back home where there's competition. And I posted it online. And the guy was like, you need to take that down. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to offend you. Like I took the video down. And then the next day he's like, we have decided not to welcome you back to Malaysian wrestling. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put the video back up then. Like, I don't even know your name. And so like I'm like pissed at this point. So I'm just like, I sent him an invoice for $75 for teaching the class that day. And he never paid me. So that's an outstanding
outstanding balance is still due.
Yeah. I don't go
Story
back.
Of,
they didn't
story
pay
of
me.
Hobo Bugs' life, man.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I tried. I didn't, like, sometimes I'm inadvertently an asshole. I'll be the first person to apologize if that goes on. But if you keep pushing, like, I'll keep being an asshole. Like I was just like, okay, like you're the one who didn't show up to your own practice.
Right.
So what exactly happened in Vietnam? Is that something you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. So that was in Vietnam. Like I was amazed because like in Japan, it's huge. I mean, it's a culture, it's a part of the culture and everything like that. In Vietnam, back then they were Saigon Pro Wrestling Club, like CP, whatever. I'm bad with acronyms, obviously. And now they go by Vietnam Pro Wrestling. But back then, they didn't have a ring. It was literally just like these like 18, 19-year-old kids in this kind of like Thai boxing little whatever that they were able to rent out and training, you know, good bunch of kids that are just trying to bring wrestling to Vietnam, and that they're the only ones at all in the entire country, and nobody knew what it was about. And so I go over there, I get into contact with them, and we're training for a couple weeks and stuff like that. And there's like one day that this like real like official looking motherfucker comes in there, and he's like talking to Rocky, who's like the main kid there. And then like all of a sudden they like get like the fucking Vietnamese military just shows up with like just AKs, and they're just yelling at us. We're like against the wall, like it's like this. And I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes, an hour. Like I don't speak Vietnamese. I don't know at all what the fuck is happening. And I'm just like, like what happened to Bugs? Like, we don't know. That was just, like,
he went to Vietnam and he didn't come back.
Like 45 years after the war, and it's just I lost my son in Nam, you know?
that reminds me a lot of Eric Bischoff took Ric Flair and them over to North Korea in the 90s.
And he kept running his mouth.
yeah. And there's another guy, his name is G Sharp. He went to China and wrestled, and he said it was so crazy because they had a huge crowd, but nobody understood what was going on. It's just like,
they literally don't get it. They don't know. And there's something beautiful about that, because like you can still get some of those like oohs and ahs of like people like really getting invested. But yeah, the whole deal was that like the Vietnamese government was like spying on them, and they're like, you're rigging the matches. And we're like, yeah. that's like the point. And they thought this was like UFC, and we were like putting money down, and we started this whole fraudulent MMA ring, and they were going to throw us in jail because they thought we were, betting and rigging these matches. And so they like had to, so like this kid is like showing, he's just like, Randy Orton, like Hulk Hogan, like showing them, they're like, no, this is. And so like it ended up that they're like, yeah, okay, well, the thing is, you guys applied for a sporting license, so you guys need to apply for an arts license. And so the whole thing got cleared up, but I was just like sitting there being like, I'm gonna die, and I don't even know what the fuck I did. Like,
well, to kind of bring things back to America, I was scrolling through your Instagram and stuff, and the most recent photo of you is just, you're a bloody mess. It looked like it was you were wrestling at Wrestling League, which I think is out of Chicago, right?
Wrestle League, yeah.
Yeah. So is that a common thing for you, or was there something special about that match?
Actually, yeah, a couple of things are special about it. For one thing, it marked my 5th year anniversary working. Cinco de Mayo is easy one for me to remember, and so that was 5 years of me in the business. I actually ran the whole show myself. So when I came out here, I started training a little bit with Wrestle League just to keep in shape and stuff like that. But they had all these shows that are all way out in the suburbs and stuff like that. And I had found this venue, and so I worked with Luis Ramos, who's like the owner and of Wrestle League, and I was like, this is a great venue. They gave us a great price on it. And so he just let me run with it. I'm really appreciative to him I did all the booking. I set up all the matches, did all the promotional material and everything like that. Yeah. And so it was kind of our first show there. So we wanted to make it a spectacle, with Muggsy James is, him and I had been talking for a couple months about us doing a hardcore match, and we love old school ECW hardcore shit. And so, it was we just decided it was going to be all out. There was the chairs, we had a couple doors we went through, ladders, thumbtacks, the whole 9 yards, and had a really great time with that one. Yeah, that was just I'm a psychopath, so that's what I do for fun.
So you do a lot of stuff with Wrestle League. Do you wrestle with any other promotions in Chicago regularly, or elsewhere that you kind of want to shout out?
I mean, I'm always happy to shout out everyone. I mean, Wrestle League has definitely been where I've kind of made my home a little bit here. I've tried to make some inroads to CSW. I would love to work with Warrior Wrestling, and I'm in school. I just got married. I'm also, so like I literally just got back from my honeymoon yesterday.
Oh, congratulations!
Thanks. So I am 12 hours off, so I might just like pass out directly after this. But yeah, but now it's like fucking go time.
It sounds like you're a bit of a nomad, and so you're kind of starting to do your thing.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of stuff. GLWA in Michigan, and it just a little bit here and there. For the next year, I'm really gonna hit the ground running and try to up it. And one of the worst things about me as a worker is that like I don't know anything about wrestling anymore. Like, I don't know indie people. I don't know the product anymore. Like, I know all the shit that I used to watch, and I train and I work out and I have my life. And people are like, oh my God, that's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Awesome.
like yeah, and so it makes me feel like such a chotch. Like, so half the time I'm getting everybody's fucking work names wrong. I look like a complete dick. But you know, so I'm definitely gonna try to up my output over the next year, and you know, and I have to really up the social media stuff. And
Oh yeah, content's very important, man.
oh my, I hate it. I hate it. Those
Hey.
fucking content sluts, dude. I'm just,
you're doing it now, man.
Yeah,
so.
I know, dude.
That's
yeah,
what we're here for. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
One of the questions I have for you is like, now that you're like going to hit the ground running, what are some of your goals? Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to wrestle? Like, what do you see? What do you want to see in the future for yourself?
The goal is to just like entertain the crowd. I don't like, if I can get a couple, you know, AEW dark matches, cool, awesome. If for by some, you know, stroke of complete luck, I get somewhere on AEW, great. I don't want to work for the E. I don't really want to be on NXT. I don't want to do it, man. I'm not going to sell my soul. I'm not going to, and I have way too much fun sitting there going, like, I have like a bottle of whiskey going over my match and then just hanging out with the crowd. I just sit there and play music, and like, as long, like, and I don't want to do fucking bingo halls with 15 people in it, but I also like, so if I, you know, to have that happy range, to make a little bit of a name for myself, to work in a couple different countries, definitely to do a tour of Mexico and a tour of Japan. I've already worked in like in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
I did like, and I you know, like, I can be a gringo and I'm still like ripping in Spanish on like on these promos and stuff like that. And and I worked in, you know, getting trained in Miami. I don't even notice when I'm doing right arms, you know, like arm drags and stuff. I don't even notice. Like, it's just like whatever we're doing. I love the lucha style. Like, I grew up with a strong Mexican influence and stuff like that. So definitely, I'd love to talk to you about that. And you know, doing some stuff in Japan at some point. Those are really the two mainstays, you know.
Those are some great goals. I think we're going to see you in all these places. I'm going to see you up here for sure. I'm going to see you in Milwaukee. You're going to be at stuff.
Yeah,
I can guarantee it. We're going to see you in Chicago. We're going to see you all over America and other countries as well, it sounds like.
Not Malaysia.
And I think, you know, a lot of people that are listening, right? They're like pretty excited about this. Like, all right, like, this guy's really cool. He's like, all right, like, it's time. Like, I'm going to be hitting up all these shows. I'm going to be everywhere. A lot of fans are like, hell yeah, this guy seems super cool. I can't wait to see him wrestle. But not all fans are like that. Some of them, they're like, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, you had some cool stories or whatever, but like, I need more. So for those fans that are still kind of holdouts, you know, what's your pitch to, you know, fans, why they should come out and see you wrestle?
Oh man, well, because Bugs Moran, the man of the land, is the most entertaining motherfucker that you done ever seen. And I just won your mama over. So if you want her back, you're gonna have to come see Bugs. Let me tell you, man, it's old school wrestling. I got a bad attitude, I got a bad mouth, I got great moves and a big dick. So you should come out, see what I gotta do. Buy a t-shirt. I'm not gonna get in the ring till you give me $1, and I'll do just about anything for a shot of whiskey.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us. I want to make sure and remind everybody to check out the new episode, as well as check out the old episodes that you haven't watched or haven't heard yet on the podcast. Make sure to like and follow. Go on our Instagram, Across the Ring, all one word. And for if you want to follow Hobo Bugs, jump on his Instagram. It's Hobo Bugs.
Easy enough.
That's right. And Bugs, I want to go ahead and take this time again, man, and thank you once again for coming on our show.
Hey, man, I thank you twice. Thank you so much, William, Carl. This has been really great. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And all the best of luck with the content and all the production company you guys got going on. Seems like you got a lot of passion. And all the best.
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you so much. And, guys, I want to remind you, you never know who's across the line.